Welcome to Syntax. The JavaScript world was flipped on its head with the announcement of Vite Plus and Void. Now, we're going to be taking 2 episodes to get into the details on both of these things, what they mean for you, how they fit into your stack, and what they do. In this episode, we are going to be focusing specifically on Vite Plus, what the heck this thing is, what it includes, how you can use it, and where it's at today. As always, my name is Scott Talinsky. I'm a developer from Denver. With me, as always, is Wes Boss, and this time today, joining us is
special
also
treat.
CJ. Yes,
What's
a special
up,
treat.
Hello,
CJ. I think this topic requires a lot of conversation. So we thought it'd be great to have CJ in here, get a third opinion on this stuff as we dive deep into what's happening with Vite. Vite Plus. Vite Plus is a unified tool for everything. And this was something that was announced a little bit while back, but now we're here. And guys, how has Vite Plus changed from when it was first announced to today?
Yeah, so let's describe what it is really quickly. It's a unified tool chain for JavaScript, and it essentially covers, like, if you have any sort of JavaScript app, whether that's client-side or like full-stack JavaScript, you're probably using Vite at some point, but you're probably using a whole bunch of other tools as well. And what they're aiming to do is to unify the entire tool chain into like a single beautiful developer experience. And they had announced this, I think maybe 6 months ago, and they said that it was going to be a paid thing. And they've since rolled that back and said, no, Vite Plus is going to be totally open source, totally for the community, which is really cool because like the whole entirety of JavaScript land is not all of it, but a lot of it is built on Vite, right? And it's really cool that we're going to hopefully get the same developer experience of Vite in the rest of our tool chain.
Yeah, I've always wondered how the paid aspect of that was intended to work in the first place. It always felt weird to me when it was announced as like a paid edition. I get that Void Zero needed to make money somehow, but when they first announced it, I was always like, how's that going to work? So really stoked to see that that's gone. Yeah.
When they first announced that like Vite was like making a company, I think I even said it on the show. I'm like, they're going to offer like module task caching similar to how like Turbo Repo does, right?
Yeah.
And part of this Vite Plus tool is like a Monorepo task runner caching, but they also announced their cloud platform, which is called Void. I don't know that they're going to offer like cache syncing or anything like that. It seems like they're going more the hosting route. We'll talk about that in the next episode, but I guess they have to make money at some point in this business, right?
Yeah, I'll say I wasn't even paying attention until last week when they said it would be open source. Like when they initially announced that it would be paid, I do think it would be similar to how I guess it's TurboPack does it. I think also NX has some sort of like module caching layer. So that's probably how they're going to make their money. The ecosystem needs some sort of consolidation because I think that's one of the biggest pain points here. Like other people have tried to solve it. Like Dino tries to do this with their formatter and they have a test runner and they tried to, with the release of Dino V2, they tried to announce themselves as like the unified toolchain. But hearing it come from Vite, I think is a bit more exciting because you don't have to switch from Node to Dino. Most people are already on Vite. So yeah, this is good.
Yeah. And so what kind of benefit, like why do we need something that's different here? Like we got our prettier, we got our ESLint. And I granted there is an argument there for unifying everything as we've mentioned, but like what other than that?
Well, like so much of our tool chain right now is like before we had Vite, maybe we'll bring it back to that. Before we had Vite, you spent a lot of time getting your Webpack bundler, your like whatever we were using previously to that. What else were we using? Like Parcel was probably a really good DX as well. You had really like gulp tasks and grunt tasks and all of this stuff. And Vite sort of came along and like this stuff just mostly just worked. And it was really fast and it was beautiful. And every time there was a major upgrade, you didn't really have to do a whole lot. And it was just like, wow, that's solved. Like this whole like bundler space of building and dev tools and live reloading and server-side running, all of that like pain has mostly been solved. But there's other tools, right? You have a linter, formatter, test runner, bundler, package installer, binary runner, monorepos, task. You have all of this stuff that sort of comes with it, and you can spend a lot of time on it. Once you get into these really big projects, it just takes a ton of time, and and it can be really slow, and they're really finicky as well. Like part of the reason people don't want to move out of their editor is because they finally got their like ESLint working when you hit save and it formats, and like that stuff is so frustrating.
All my stuff's here. I don't want my stuff moved, right?
Yeah.
And I think the way they're trying to solve this is like the easiest way to think about this is go from 6 config files to 1 config file. And we're going to get into it. We're going to show some examples, but you might think, oh, now it's just one file with a bunch of config. The other aspect here is kind of like opinions and sensible defaults, right? Like a lot of times when you set up a basic Vite app with vtest, you don't need to do too much config. And so if there's just some default config ready to go for you, Vite Plus will handle that. Same thing with linting. Like I spend so much time setting up my ESLint config, getting it perfect, but if they ship with sensible defaults, you don't even need a linter config anymore. You can just use all the defaults. Same thing for formatting, task running. Like I use PNPM for all my projects because it's really good for monorepos and running tasks across multiple packages. But their task runner here is going to be able to solve that. And that's another thing. Like one dev team might be using PNPM, another dev team might be using some like NX. So this unification kind of makes it so that if we're all on the same page, we can probably like innovate faster, move faster, and like all consolidate on the same tools.
Yeah, and I think it owning everything like version manager even. That's something that I really hate having to deal with. I hate having to deal with NVM. I hate having to not have that be tightly integrated. It's like, oh, okay, now I got to run these commands on my system or whatever. One configuration for all that stuff would be great.
So let's go through all of the things that this Vite Plus does for you. And a lot of these, they're not just like building their own version of it. They are simply just running it for you. They're sort of putting it all into a single tool chain and then allowing you to have a good developer experience. If you still want to use Yarn and whatever weird thing that you have set up in like a weird version of Node, it will just do that for you, which is really nice for all of your projects. So the two big ones that we have here are a linter and a formatter. So they have oxlint and oxformat, which are Rust-based linters and formatters. They're prettier and ESLint compatible. And they ship right in there. So basically you go open up your project. And the new thing that they're giving you is this VP, which is Vite Plus. So you install this on your machine. What I really like about it is if you type it and you don't know what to type, it just turns into like a little like CLI GUI where you can pick what it is that you want, right? And in my case, I could just say like VP check or VP lint or VP check fix, and it will automatically fix them for you. And then it'll go through your entire project and give you your linting errors, your format. It won't give you your formatting errors because it will just fix them for you. And then it will also give your type errors as well, right? It will integrate with the TypeScript SDK and give you all of those pieces.
Obviously, it doesn't show itself here in any meaningful capacity because you're not like linting a massive code base or anything like that. But the speed is really a huge sell for these things. And if you haven't hit speed issues with some of these tools, then you probably just haven't been working on big enough projects.
You're probably not a very good developer. But yeah, like I know people who have like their CI is like 20 minutes of checks, right? And like that sucks when you're trying to like do a quick fix. Because like I think like after like 10 minutes or so, you move on to something else, you forget about it, you got to poke the right people. You just move a lot slower when these things take that long.
Can I also say that I really like that they settled on something very short, VP. I'm the type of guy that loves that. I love a short command that's easy to remember. Short King loves a short command, that's for sure.
Let me tell you one thing I love about this is that like sometimes I have a PNPM project and it's PNPM dev. Sometimes I have an NPM package and it's NPM run dev.
Yes.
Sometimes it's some weird thing that still uses Yarn, and I hate that. And I have like a little dev command that will try to suss out if it's PNPM or not. But what this will do is you just simply type VP dev. I moved like 6 or 7 projects over to it already because I'm like, I just want to type VP dev, and whatever it's using, it will just start. It will figure it out for me. And I absolutely love it. There we go. This is the Mad CSS website. It just fired itself up, and now it's running on localhost 3000.
In the ecosystem, AmpFu actually created a tool called NI that does something similar. Like it figures out, do you need Yarn install or NPM install? But again, it's a ecosystem package and a lot of people don't know about it. I think Vite Plus introducing these ideas to the rest of the ecosystem is really great.
Yeah. Or like somebody takes the syntax website, and how do you tell them to start it? VP install, VP dev. It doesn't matter what tools we're using under the hood. And I know that like Node is shipped with something like that where you can use multiple packaging managers, but it never works as well as you think it will.
And I think maybe it's a good time to talk about what Scott mentioned in terms of node version management, because that's another thing included here that I thought was really great, because you do this on every machine. Like you want to have maybe the LTS of Node running, but you also want to have maybe the latest stuff, or maybe you have an older project and you need to be running version 18 or 20. When you set up a Vite Plus project, it asks you if you want it to manage the node version, and it will pin it to a specific version. Like this is another thing that like there are tools out there for this, but now this is integrated with the project. And so when somebody clones your project down and they use VP, it's going to use the right version of Node.js, and no issues with telling them to run a specific version or anything like that.
I hate node version issues. I hate it.
Yeah.
And
drives me
like
nuts.
this is huge for people who have big test suites as well, right? You have a library and you want to run it against 7 or 8 different versions of Node, and you have to like have something that will change it. This is simply just VP env, and then you can switch the versions, and it has like a doctor command. You can see which version you're currently on. I've been using N for the longest time. I know a lot of people use NVM, and then we also found out about FNM during the State of JS survey, which is a new popular one. But this seems to be their own home-cooked version of node version management.
It just keeps going back to like the ecosystem already fell in love with Vite. Like we all realize like this is good. They did the right thing. And if they can make the same ideas and choices about other aspects of the ecosystem, like why not trust them? Like why not kind of consolidate to a single spot?
The like worry of me is like we all settle on this one tool, and then like what happens when something better than Oxlint comes out?
Yeah.
But also like if there's anybody I trust in this whole ecosystem for building kick-ass dev tools, it's like Vite, right? They've proven themselves to really care about the DX and really care about the perf.
And it feels like they're setting it up in a way that could potentially swap out other tools. They basically give you the entry point, but then under the hood, other things could be being used. So that gives me confidence as well.
Yeah. Could we talk about the linter being tsgolint? It uses tsgolint, which is one, it's using TypeScript Go, so it's very fast, but it's type-aware linting, and that's via Oxlint. That is an Oxlint package. So according to the README, that it's able to catch syntax-only linting misses, like no floating promises that would be dropped silently in other linters. So because the linting is type-aware, it can catch bug classes that like ESLint could never catch without.
Oh, interesting. I can't say I've ever had a problem with that. Have you guys?
Well, tsGolint can do it, but it requires a JavaScript plugin, so it's so much slower. Because there is like type-aware linting in ESLint. Okay. I will say, as someone trying to migrate my ESLint configs to Oxlint, this is one of the biggest pain points. If you have some older projects that are like pinned to a specific TypeScript version, you can't necessarily jump to TSGo just yet. But if it's a newer project and you can, it's lightning fast.
Man, so I moved the Mad CSS website over, and that was using Vite, TanStack Start, and Biome as the formatter. And they have a VP migrate command, which will attempt to take all of your old like prettier config, your ESLint config, and move them over. In my case, it didn't move over Biome because they don't have a Biome migration. But I basically just moved it over to this. And then there was one or two little changes I put in there that were like major. I think the Serge started it. He did tabs, and by default it's spaces, right? So I just threw on tabs so the whole project wouldn't get reformatted. But then the rest of it, I was just like, I don't care. I just ran it once. I put in a commit, and it touched, I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 lines of like different weird formatting. Yeah. But past that, I was just like, I'm so past the days of caring so much about all of these formatters. Just give me whatever the default is. It's probably fine, except for like I have some qualms around prettier, and like long arrays where it puts one item per thing. That drives me nuts. But otherwise, I'm fine.
Like, I agree, but if you're on an existing project, I don't want to see a commit with 300 files changed. Sometimes it's okay, it doesn't matter, but that kind of messes with the Git history. So that's where I've been struggling, is like trying to get a like feature compatible oxlint that still uses a few ESLint plugins, but then it's slower because it has to use those ESLint plugins. So I think if you can start a project with oxlint, I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you want to see all of the errors in your application, you'll want to check out Sentry at sentry.io/syntax. You don't want a production application out there that, well, you have no visibility into in case something is blowing up and you might not even know it. So head on over to sentry.io/syntax. Again, we've been using this tool for a long time and it totally rules. All right. I get your point about the good default stuff, though, Wes, because I agree. I think I am like more or less landing on that as well, because it's like the tooling can be such a pain that it's just whatever you think is best, and as long as it's the same thing, then I'm fine with it. But there is the one thing that I still really want to have detailed control over, that kind of stuff, is linting of CSS. I have very strict CSS standards and rules, so I like get really niche into my style lint kind of setup. That's something that I would love to see out of this, even though I know this is just a JavaScript tool.
One interesting thing about the configs here is that you can put your config in your vite config. So if you have oxlint, ox format settings, instead of having the external JSON file, you can stick them right in your vite config, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. What do you think? Like, should your config go in your vite config, or should you have a separate file? I hate having lots of files in my home directory, but I've kind of just given up on that now that there's 80,000 agents.md files everywhere.
I think if you can maybe make a rule, like if your config for that particular tool is no longer than 5 lines, sure, throw it in there. But the moment it gets bigger, maybe pull it out to a separate file.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, do other tools need to consume your config other than Vite Plus? And I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I think like in other cases you'd be like, yeah, well, like my test runner also needs to have my config or my CI, but like this tool seems to cover all of those use cases. It also is a pre-commit, so it has Husky built in, meaning that when you make a commit, it will run your lint type and formatter for you, which is really nice. So then you cannot commit code that does not pass, like whatever. In some cases, I just added a whole bunch of as's or whatever to my code base to make it pass. But I think that's a good thing. I don't do that a ton on my projects. Do you,
Wes? You gonna back that ass up?
Yes, back my ass up.
Back it up on Git. Yeah. So is this only this Husky stuff? Is this only installed if you're doing their migration scripts?
No, it's by default. So if you just like git commit, like when you do a new project, it will then add it into your Git folder.
Can you start a new folder and just do a VP create for us? Let's kind of walk through what it does, because I thought you could choose whether or not you want hooks. I will say that I am a fan of Git hooks, especially on open source projects. I know not everyone is. They like depend on CI, but I like to make sure my stuff is good before I push up to CI.
Yeah. Yeah, they can get annoying sometimes, but I do like them as well.
Oh, see? VP and knit, nothing,
Ooh,
right?
VP and knit.
VP
interesting.
Create.
That you went with the knit.
Yeah.
Come on, you got to have an alias there, yeah. All right, so it asks you, do you want a Vite plus monorepo, an app, a library, Tanstack start, or other?
Interesting.
Which is kind of cool. So the monorepo stuff, we haven't talked about that yet, but like this is a huge use case for it, which is I want a monorepo with tasks and a complicated setup. So let's just go regular. Let's do Tanstack start. PNPM, yarn or NPM, obviously PNPM. It asks you which agents files you want, which is really cool. And I did find that both Claude Code and Cursor did a fantastic job at immediately just switching over to using all VP commands, which is amazing because 6 months ago could not get the thing to use PNPM for the life of me.
Maybe, honestly, it's like the VP command is different enough from NPM instead of PNPM that it's like, oh, I can do this.
It adds a VS Code folder, which is just for some VS Code extensions. And then do you want to set up pre-commit hooks for running formatting, linting, and type checking with auto fixes? So this is when you go ahead and do that. So yes, then it goes ahead and scaffolds out your whole project. What would you like to name it? TANWES. What do we want? Deploy to, let's do Netlify. And then this is no longer the Vite Plus. This is now
now we're in TanStack.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep hitting enter. Now we're back. There is already an agents.md file. So we'll merge it. Boom, boom, boom.
Interesting.
Installing. And this is awesome because this is kind of what I wanted for super long. I know there's lots of like npx scaffold out commands, but I have like it almost burned into my brain, which is npm init, npm package set type of module, so it's not ESM, npm install vite. You know, like my terminal almost knows exactly what I want to type every single time. So, all right, here we go. By the way, this is an example of why I will not leave Warp. You see how Warp is suggesting to me what I need to put in here? Everybody who's a Warp hater doesn't know the beauty of it having context for its suggestions. That's exactly what I want to do.
I'm not a hater. I've just never gotten past the login screen. But if I did, it's cool.
I haven't had a login screen for like a year.
I'm out of the loop. Yeah, they lost me.
Don't want to be a hater no more. Yeah. I like Warp. Big fan.
There we go. So like I just created it, and now I can just type like VP check or VP. What do we got here? There we go. Look at all these errors. Formatting issues found, and I can run like VP check fix, and it will go ahead and fix it. You make a commit, it will run those all.
Yeah, and I just want to back up what you said about like setting up projects. I find now that I'm using a lot more like agent workflows, having a good check setup, so like linting, formatting, testing, that the agent can use to validate itself. Like even this weekend, I found myself every new project I want to do, I got to set all that up again. I made like a starter kit, but Vite Plus makes that so simple. Like you have a new project, it has all the checks that agents like to use because they've been trained to just run those checks to make sure they're doing the stuff right. So it is nice for starting a project and then just throwing an agent at it.
It's so good because anytime you like tell an agent to like make something, I find myself being like, damn it, I forgot to tell it to use this specific tech, and it went and used Express or something weird like that.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to like have a non-AI make your scaffold out your choices initially. Monorepos. So this is a huge use case for people using NX or Turbo Repo, something like that. So they created their own task runner. So if you've never used like a Monorepo or task runner before, often what will happen is you'll need to like have a task like build. That in turn needs to run some other scripts that live in your other packages folder, right? You're in your mama package.json, you run something and it needs to like run build in two others or like run a lint on one of them. And by defining what your tasks are, here, let's take a look at the docs here. Execute, run scripts. It obviously can run like package JSON scripts, but I think the more interesting thing is this like task definition, right? If you have a command of VP build, first it depends on running a lint first, or VP deploy, it first needs to run a deploy script with the prod one in there, and there should be no cache for that. But before you do that, you should run build and test, right? Like this is Turbo Repo is very similar to something like this.
Yeah, and I like Turbo Repo personally.
Hate fussing with monorepos. Turbo Repo made it significantly better, but like I got to a point where I just ripped out a lot of the stuff from my own code bases because I was very confused at many times.
I actually very recently frustratedly ripped out a Monorepo because I was so annoyed with it. And this, hopefully, I haven't gotten my hands on this tool specifically yet to give it a rip. But Monorepos, man, it feels like hopefully this lands on something that will make this a little bit better because they are just no fun to work in.
Yeah, I've been using PNPM for monorepos, which is fine because it has a Yeah, workspaces, it has parallel task runner. I haven't tried to do this like one task depends on the other with PNPM. I don't know if you can do that, but this sounds really nice because I've had agents that try to run things in the wrong order. And then it's like every new agent has to figure out, oh, I should run lint before I run type check. So having the depends on seems really great.
Yeah, that does seem great. I really just hate installing dependencies in a monorepo. It's like
that's another thing that they have here, right? Here we go. If you run VP run whatever, it will run it in the like main package. But if you want to run like, let's say you want to run dev just in like your admin package, right? In this case, you just type there's @my/utils, or you can run like filter as well. I had quite a bit of filters with PNPM in my package JSON as well.
I still find that to be obnoxious.
For me, I was just like, I ripped out a lot of my turbo repo stuff and I just replaced it with just PNPM workspaces and like filter commands. And it worked pretty well for most of my use cases. It's not super complex though. What else do they have? They have a task runner, Monorepo. We talked about that. Defining tasks. It's a package installer. It's obviously a bundler and dev tool. That's what Vite is, right? So it will simply just use that. Vite 8 was also announced, which now uses I think it uses roll down by default, which is their Rust-based implementation of roll up.
Yeah, because lost in all of this, Vite 8 came out. So, which uses roll down by default.
Pretty great. Task caching is a huge one as well, especially when you have like long CI builds that maybe have like lots of images or CSS sheets that need to be bundled. You can cache the outputs of your like Vite build, and then it depends on which host you're in, but many hosts will allow you to cache your node modules. So what a lot of these tools do is they just stick the cache in the node modules folder, and then next time you run a build, that will come back. It wouldn't surprise me if they come out with some task caching thing that can be used between teams as well. But this is really cool because it simply just speeds up your deployments, right? If you have, I don't know, like in my course platform, I have probably 25 different like CSS files for different websites, and I want them all built out individually. And that doesn't take that long, but sometimes it's not necessary to build those if they haven't been changed, right? So that cache will swoop in. And this gets way bigger when you're looking at things like compressing images or doing large JavaScript builds or WASM things where there's maybe 2 or 3 megs worth of something moving around. So that speeds up your builds quite a bit.
And this is a big reason why Turbo Repo was so fast, right?
Yeah. Turbo Repo was awesome for this type of thing. And then I know NX has their own. The other thing that this Vite Plus has is like a binary runner. So if you use like NPX, you simply just use VPX as well, and that will run those packages for you.
On the point of task caching, they did everything. But like if you go back to the intro thing, this is great even for local dev. I keep going back to agents. I think anybody watching this is gonna be like, what happened to this guy? But the thing, like, I have agents that are they're running these quality checks after everything. But if they only changed a markdown file, there's no need to rerun the test or rerun the build. And so this task caching basically detects like what files actually changed, what arguments changed. Do I need to rerun test, or do I need to rerun lint, or can I just use the previous output because nothing changed? So like this would also speed up agent workflows because that's huge.
Yeah, you're right. And especially when you're sitting there waiting for the agent to spit it out, and it's like, now let me just type check the entire project before I like, you change a markdown file, you know?
Exactly.
Only pre-existing errors. That's my favorite response, you know?
Yeah, only pre-existing errors.
That's cool. So, thoughts? What do you guys think? Are you using this? Are you excited about this, or is this too overreaching for a tool?
Thoughts? Yeah, my thoughts is that one, I'm going to use this everywhere all the time. It does all the stuff that I want it to do, and it does so in a better way than the current tools I'm using. The biggest bummers to me is that the framework and plugin support here isn't there to the point where I can just remove all of my tools, because the Svelte formatting and the Svelte linting just applies to the JavaScript in the script tags, and it's not going to do the HTML. It's not going to check those types of things. So what it cannot do today is it cannot replace my entire toolchain today. And that makes me sad because I would love to just rip everything out. And there's some issues about the plugins and what support needs to come before those can be completed. But when I see the announcement, the first thing I think of is, can I remove everything today? And sadly, I can't. And the ground that I don't want to be in is supporting Vite plus ESLint and Prettier for the things that I need to, and then you have competing things and different formats and all that stuff. I don't want to be in that weird mushy middle. I just want it to stink and replace all my stuff. So I will be using this going forward. I'm very excited for it, and the only thing I wish I could have with this is a time machine where I could go into the future where I'm not going to have to support all of these things.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at it, what tsgolint supports, and is that the same support as their formatter as well?
It didn't look like it from the list.
No, the linter supports JavaScript and all of its like TypeScript, whatever, JSX and TSX, and then like .svelte view and Astro files, but only the script blocks. So we're not talking like the actual HTML part of it, right?
Correct.
But the formatter does support CSS or whatever. But like what you're talking about here is you want linting inside of your Svelte templating, and with this you don't get that. So they essentially need they need HTML. This is what Biome didn't have for a while, right? They need an HTML parser, and then once you have an HTML parser, then you can start to branch out and do all of these HTML-like languages.
CJ, what are your thoughts? Final thoughts here.
Yes, this is great. I think I'm on the exact same line as you, Scott. Like, if I could use all of this in a project with no hiccups in terms of like compatibility, great. But some projects are Svelte, some projects don't have full support yet. So I'm excited to see where this goes. But I think like even Ox format just was in beta, so it's not stable yet. I think personally, I'm going to have to figure out what my preferred tsgolint and Ox format setup is, because I'm coming from the world of Antfoo's ESLint config, which includes ESLint stylistic, and I have to train myself out of that and use the formatter instead. So there's just some personal issues I got to work through, but otherwise, like
you got issues.
I got issues. Otherwise, this seems great. I think any new project I spin up, I'm going to give this a go first before trying to build out my whole stack or use some starter template for it.
Yeah, I agree. Like for new projects and like small projects that I've moved it to, absolutely awesome so far. But like existing, I haven't moved my like big boys over, course platform, syntax site, those types of things. That's going to take a bit more. And not to say that we couldn't use Vite plus
aspects of
for
it,
the rest of it, just not for linting and formatting, right? You can still use the task runner and all the 90% of the other stuff that we talked about. But I'm pretty excited about this. It's due time that this stuff becomes much easier in this ecosystem.
Tech. So what are your thoughts on this? Drop a comment below. Let us know what you're thinking about both Vite plus, all aspects of it. Does it go far enough? Does it go too far? Let us know down below.